Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Freight Insider Podcast, where we are opening the door to the business of freight. I'm your host, Paige Siplon. I always say that freight is the common denominator in this complicated math problem that we call our economy. Every business is touched by freight, but the how varies greatly, and it really matters. Some companies exist to move the freight, others are technology and track it. Some create the freight, manufacture it, while still others rely on receiving it, like retailers, to share it with consumers and businesses who then consume it even further. It's complicated. Freight is complicated and it's exciting. And it's actually a pretty well-kept secret weapon for businesses, as well as our national economy. Today, I have a very special guest joining us, an old friend. We've done this before together. My guest has been fascinated by logistics and how goods move through the global network. Early in his career, he worked as a forklift operator, literally boots on the ground, eventually receiving his commercial driver's license and CDL. As a champion of drivers, he realizes that our supply chain would not function without the contributions, deep sacrifice, and dedication of America's drivers. Today, my guest serves as President of Roadrunner, a position he's held since 2017. In this role, he's led the transformation of the company's unique service offering in the national LTL market. With my guest at the helm, Roadrunner has transformed itself into an award-winning service-first LTL freight career. Before serving as president of Roadrunner, he worked as the senior vice president of sales and marketing. He spent 3 years as vice president and general manager for the North American Corporation, which is a distributor of packaging products and equipment based in Glenville, Illinois. And from 2012 to 2013, he was executive vice president for Vitron Express, where he was responsible for the turnaround, sale, and transition of the U.S. LTL operations. He also spent 16 years of his career at FedEx Freight, where he was a VP of divisional operations, 2007 to 2012. He's a graduate of the University of Arkansas, holds a degree in transportation logistics, not surprisingly, hearing all that, as well as certification, CTL from the American Society of Transportation and Logistics. Apparently, he does not like when people have more than 10 items in the express checkout lane, also a pet peeve of mine, although I'd be remiss saying I didn't push that envelope sometimes. In his free time, he enjoys traveling, playing golf, and spending time with his family. So joining me today is Mr. Frank Hurst. Welcome to the Freight Insider, Frank.
Hey, Paige, good to see you. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
It's great to have you with us. So I just walked through your background. It's impressive. You've been around the block, as they say. As you know, in the Freight Insider podcast, it's all about the freight journey. So tell us a little bit more about yourself, where you grew up, how did you get into being? I think you started off, as I mentioned, as a forklift operator. What drove you to get into the logistics supply chain industry?
Yeah, thanks, Paige. I grew up in a small town in Northeast Arkansas called Paragould, Arkansas, kind of small town USA, if you will. It's where community and family were a big part of how I grew up, and I guess I was lucky to be surrounded by a bunch of hardworking, honest people in a community that really rallied around churches and schools and kids and so forth. So I went to school at the University of Arkansas, Whoopig Suey, and really didn't know what I wanted to do, Paige. And so I took my first class, the Intro to Transportation, and I was like, man, this is really what I want to do. I've got a lot of energy. I knew I wasn't going to be good stuck behind a desk. And so they told us about LTL and truckload and freight and so forth. And I just kind of fell in love. There were like less than 30 kids in the major. So I knew that the competition wasn't very big. So I thought this is good. And so I remember calling home and telling my mom, saying, hey, Mom, I found a major. She goes, hold on a second, let me get your dad on the phone. And so she said, okay, what is it? And I said, transportation. And she goes, oh God, he's going to be a bus driver. And so, probably couldn't been, it was pretty close to the truth, but it's very fortunate and found a career with American Freightways out of college. And then kind of the rest is history. But that's kind of fortunate. I love the business.
Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned, taking the Intro to Transportation course. That's something, I'm an advocate for as well, is getting, earlier in high school, trying to link into our youth. I know we'll talk about what Roadrunner is doing with youth and veterans later, but, having those Intro to Transportation courses will really make a difference. And having them focus on logistics and not just driving a car or a bus, as your mom was concerned about, although there's nothing wrong with bus driving profession. But so as you got into that, obviously you fell in love with it, and you said the rest is history. what impact has freight had on the journey? We're talking about big words, right? Logistics, transportation, buses or trucks, but then also the word freight means a lot of different things, as I said in the intro. How has that had an impact, and what kind of lessons have you learned working with freight on your journey?
Yeah, so I started with a company called American Freightways in Joplin, Missouri, and my first day on the job, I mowed the yard, and they taught me how to sweep the dock, and so I literally was fortunate enough to have great people that taught me the business from the ground up, and so worked on the dock as a forklift operator for a while, and then they had a kind of a management training program where you go and you get your CDL and you learn how to be a driver, and so that was so important because the company really viewed that you have to really understand what the driver goes through and how to drive a truck if you're ever going to be a leader in the business. So
Yeah.
I did that, and then took a lot of shuttle runs on the weekends, and took 2 over the road runs in my entire career, and then really was fortunate, 25 years old, to be offered the opportunity to go to a small town in Cherryville, Kansas, to be the service center manager. And so we had 12 drivers, an office employee, and a lead person. And
Right.
I remember walking in my first day, and I'm young and I've never led people or anything else. And so I went to the gentleman, Steve Davis, I'll never forget. And I said, Steve, I don't know the first thing about being a service center manager, so you're going to have to help me. And he said, Frank, you don't have to know. All those people out on the dock and the ladies in the office, they're going to be able to tell you. So if you listen to them, then you'll be able to, you'll be successful. And I took that to heart, and I've really taken that advice for the last 20 something years of my career, is that I don't have to have all the answers, but my job is to really learn from the people that know. And that's really, to me, what's so special about trucking and transportation, is that the people on the front line understand how it's supposed to be done. It's our job really to pull that information from them, support them, and make them successful people. And if that's the case, the rest is pretty easy, quite honestly.
Yeah, just kind of stay out of their way. That's a great adage, and I know you've embraced that for a lot of things as you've grown through your career. Is surround yourself with smart people that are smarter than you or know more different things than you know. And obviously, another caveat is you've got to go to a small town. That's a great place to learn the ropes, and that's cool that you've sort of cut your teeth there in small towns and hardworking folks. It's definitely had an impact.
Yeah, it was a great opportunity. I went from Cherryville to Omaha, Nebraska, and opened up facilities in Colorado, New Mexico, and Missouri, and moved all over the country, Indianapolis. And
wow.
But I think that's the key, is you have to. But it's a people business, right? And I
Absolutely.
always wanted to go to the places that no one else wanted to go to. No less opportunity, right? I would load my stuff in the back of a trailer and leave Friday afternoon, be there on Monday morning, and get a chance. It was fun. To me, it was so much fun. You're dealing with people and you're learning a business, and it's a lot of hours. It's hard work, but you really recognize the importance of what those men and women do every single day, and how you can learn. There's so much to learn in our business, and it's all around leading and developing people is really the key.
Yeah, I say that all the time, that we're in the people business for sure. I also say, and not to digress, because we'll keep talking. Obviously, we got a lot to cover, but I think the phrase truck driver, I think, is part of our problem. Not for Roadrunner or Team One Logistics, just as an industry, we have a problem of perception. You talked about the intro to transportation course. People think truck driver, oh well, I'm just steering a wheel and pushing a pedal. But as you've alluded to, there is so much more than just driving the truck. That's a very important part, and it's got to be done safely and professionally, and it is. But that's 20%, right? Aiming the truck down the road to belittle it is only a small slice of what they got to do. They're collecting money, they're interacting with customers, they're doing sales, they're navigating that freight. So I think that's a big part of what you just alluded to, is that truck drivers do a heck of a lot more. And part of the reason we're doing this podcast is to help educate folks that aren't like you and I, that need to learn a little bit more about what happens in our freight world.
100%. I mean, I mentioned it. I've taken 2 line haul runs in my entire career. And Paige, I realized that I don't have what it takes to do that, right? From a focus standpoint. And you're exactly right. It's much different when I get in my vehicle with my family and we go to visit my in-laws, right? I'm driving down the road and the gas light comes on and I pull in and get gas. as
Sure.
a professional truck driver is completely different. Before they leave, they're planning their route. Where are they going to get their fuel? How much time do they have? Make sure their e-logs are correct, all the preventive maintenance and safety aspects of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they're behind the wheel, it's completely focused on the road, safety, checking their mirrors. And people don't realize that is a stressful job. It takes patience, it takes determination and a lot of vision as well about operating, and then the safety aspects of everything that goes on in a vehicle and so forth. So you're exactly right. It's much more than just operating a truck. There's so much more that goes into the customer service aspect. Our customers tell us all the time, you can change your account executive, you can change the president of the company, you can change a lot of things. Do not change that truck driver. And that's there's so many emails and phone calls I get about the great job that our drivers do day in and day out. Because you're right, it's customer service, it's
It
sales,
is.
and it's a people business, as you mentioned a minute ago.
No, well, not surprising. I mean, we hear a lot of great things about what Roadrunner is doing. So that takes us to kind of a good transition. That takes us to where you are now, president of Roadrunner. You've been in that role for a couple of years now. What are you most excited about? Tell me. I mentioned your transformation, and that's a big word for you of what's happening in the industry with the LTL, but specifically what's happening with Roadrunner. So walk us through kind of what's going on, what you're excited about at Roadrunner right now.
Yeah, thanks, Paige. So it's been fun. I've been here for 5.5 years, my current job for 5. But I really say that this is kind of two different companies. It was the company we had for the first 3.5 years, which was heavy turnaround. We were part of a much bigger organization. We divested of those businesses to really get back to the core focus of being Roadrunner, which is a long haul metro to metro LTL provider with nationwide service.
Right.
I've been very public, Paige, is saying that that Roadrunner kind of lost its way. And instead of focusing on service with customers and service with drivers, we tried to be everything to everybody. And so the first part of last spring, we went out and raised $50 million of new capital, and we put that money to use from facilities, technology, as well as business intelligence tools and investing in our drivers and so forth. But probably the biggest change was it gave us the confidence to make the biggest change we had in the business, which were we exited the markets that prior we handled with one-way agents and partners for delivery to getting back to what Roadrunner does best. And now we only pick up and deliver in 32 markets across the country with a streamlined scheduled line haul network with an eye toward service and quality on everything. And it's been it's almost been the biggest transition and transformation we've had. And I like to say that was really the start this time last year when we implemented our new line haul network and our really go-to-market strategy was really the start of a new company.
Yeah.
And so this year we've rebranded, we've got new logos, and we've rebranded the company. And there's a lot of conversation about, do we change the name? Is because of our history of service and reputation so poor. And we really felt like that people love turnaround stories and they love the underdog. And as long as we're very open and honest with our customers on what happened and have a new brand that really represents the new Roadrunner, which is very service first. So we're bringing the bird back. We're kind of going back old school a little bit from what Roadrunner once was, which
that's great.
Fantastic long haul metro to metro carrier.
That's awesome. So I'm glad to hear no new name change, right? Because I'm a fan of the bird as well. So that's awesome. And I completely agree. I mean, I think a lot of trucking executives and maybe a little too late or a lot too late for a lot of companies out there that lost their way and didn't have the leadership of a Frank Hurst and your team, because I know it's not just you, because you would say that. But it's you can't be all things to all people. And if you try, you end up nothing to nobody. It's a phrase I use frequently. And so that focus and that commitment that you've made and the investment of your investors' dollars and your company's dollars and your employees' dollars make a big difference. So I applaud you for that focus. I know it's going to serve you well.
Well, it's also, I would say that, we've been very fortunate with the investors that we've had. We've got 2 new gentlemen that joined the board with Kevin Shuba and Andrew Leto. And they've rolled their sleeves up and they're supporting us in the business. And it's one thing to implement new technologies and build cross-dock facilities and implement a line haul network. That stuff it's heavy lifting, but the hard part is changing the culture. changing the culture for, the team of employees that we have in our service centers, obviously our drivers. And that's where we're really focused right now is how do we tie the employee that we have that's handling our customers' freight, whether it be on the dock in Louisville, Kentucky, or it could be the driver that's on I-88 in Chicago to that customer. Because that's when you make that connection, that's when the magic happens in our business, when people want to go above and beyond to take care of our customers. Because as you mentioned earlier, what we've seen the last couple of years is that the product that we move is someone's life's work.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very important to the economy we have overall. We see the shortage of baby formula and so forth. What we do in our business makes a huge difference in the economy, and so that's why culture is such a big piece of that.
Yeah, and it's also one. Fortunately, it's one of the slower things to change. You can't just rip the Band-Aid off and say, "Okay, new culture, here it comes. Here's the handbook for new culture." It takes listening, it takes learning and paying attention to the people, like you said earlier, that really know the business and really empowering them to help run the business as well. So that's exciting. Yeah, you mentioned that's the baby formula. Man, it's been a couple of years, hasn't it, with the shortages. I'm an optimistic, glass full guy, but almost to a flaw sometimes. But it's if one thing good has come out of this whole pandemic, and it's been the light that has been shined on trucking in particular, but transportation and logistics more broadly. The frontline workers and nurses, and there's lots of, the police and firefighters, first responders and all that, but I'd put trucking right in there with them. And I know you would too, but, and I think that light's been shone on transportation and trucking has really been eye-opening. People really started to realize that milk just didn't appear on the shelves magically overnight. It came via truck. And so I think that's a good thing that we can hopefully embrace and use going forward to expand our industry as well.
Yeah, I'm so proud of the men and the women that when everybody talks about when the world shut down in March, right?
Right.
Well, it didn't shut down for the dock workers in Chicago and Los Angeles and the truck drivers and office employees. And
that's right.
They went to work. I mean, because they had to every day to make sure commerce is moving. And to your point, a lot of frontline workers that we can't be more so appreciative of. But you're right. It takes all those people that they weren't able to work from home. They had to go to the office. They had to go to their truck and so forth. And so I think I think everyone in a broader sense really understands the importance of frontline workers, especially transportation, of how important this is in our economy and commerce.
Yeah, it sort of redefines the word remote worker, right? Truck drivers are remote workers every day, regardless of what they're doing. They're sitting in that truck. They're getting more and more remote every minute that goes by sometimes. So they're experts at it. That's not new. Well, so you mentioned the drivers being a people business. I know you guys use independent contractors. Tell me a little bit more about that, how you guys are embracing and your commitment that you've made to your independent contractors, which I know are a big part of our industry, owner operators, to call them something else. What has Roadrunner done to back that up?
Yeah, so great question. So I talked a little bit about the culture. So if you look backwards at Roadrunner, is that we try to be everything to everybody from a network standpoint, and we really failed our customer from a service standpoint. But Paige, we failed our drivers as well. We didn't really have the support mechanisms and the culture to take care of our drivers. And so we've really set out as this new network. And so the new network was really developed about long haul, metro to metro with direct routes. That's the way the network was built, which it just so happens that aligns with what the customers want from the old Roadrunner, which we have. And so it resonates well with them, but also resonates well with the drivers because that's what they want. They want to go long haul, metro to metro, and direct routes with less downtime. So we think about how we developed the network. It was towards an eye towards the customer as well as the driver, because the drivers that the owner operators, independent contractors we have the best service, the best safety records, and so forth. So we really want to increase the number of independent contractors that we have. And we like to say that we feel we're the destination of choice for independent contractors and owner operators, and really trying to do a few things a little special in the business where they're not just drivers. These are men and women and grandmothers and grandfathers and small business owners. And it's our job, put our arms around them. And one of the things we talk about is empowering entrepreneurs, which we'll talk about in a minute. But it's really about how do we create a culture for them to be successful they want to come to Roadrunner because there's something special here. And so there's a lot of things that we're doing around that, and I can walk you through a couple of those things in a minute, but it's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, owner operators, they are small business owners, right? Some with just one truck. Maybe it's a husband, wife that run that, and it's a family-owned business. I mean, they're sort of the epitome of small business owners, but they are entrepreneurs too. I mean, they've got to put a lot of them, big commitment. Those trucks aren't cheap, as you know. Being able to put $250,000 or more into a truck, that's their life. I mean, and so how they need partners to work with, they need business partners. And I think that's what you're talking about, this helping to embrace entrepreneurship through owner operators. So explain what you mean by that, how you guys are empowering entrepreneurs with Roadrunner, in particular with owner operators.
Yeah, so one of the things we did, Paige, is that we used to have orientation in 3 separate parts across the country. We did a really poor job at it, to be very transparent. So the first of the year, we moved orientation into Downers Grove. And so every new driver within Roadrunner comes through Downers Grove, where they get the chance to spend time with me, our leadership team in operations, transportation, our executive team with Chris Jamross is here every Thursday. And so we get the chance to talk to them, but they're just not a number, but get to know who they are. So we have a questionnaire about where are they from, what's their CV handle. We like to do that. And
nice.
How many kids do they have, and why do they like transportation? What are the biggest challenges they have, and what can we do to make their life easier? And so I spend a few hours with them every week and get to know every one of them. And then it's interesting though, but Paige, we ask them those questions. We get the same answers every single week. It's really simple. What can we do? What are the biggest challenges? What can we do to make your life easier? Number one is communication. Be open, be honest, and be transparent in the communication that we have. That's pretty easy, right? Number two is
easy to say. Easy to say.
Right. That's right. So it's easy to say, but sometimes it's hard to back up. But and I tell them, I said, we're going to tell you things sometimes you don't want to hear. The load's not ready, and you're going to tell us things as well that we don't want to hear. That your truck's broke down or whatever else it is. But as long as we're open and honest, have transparent communication, everything else can work. And so they said communication, keep me moving, reduce my downtime. There's less downtime, means there's more time behind the seat, and that's more money that they're going to make from their business, because we talk a lot about the importance of profitability. Roadrunner can't be profitable if our drivers aren't profitable. And then really is when I need something, please be there to support me. So I give all of our drivers my business card with my cell phone number in it. They can contact me. Obviously, we got a much larger support system that wraps their arms around them. But if they need me, I expect them to call me. And so it's and then so we do that throughout the week in orientation. We're really their first experience with Roadrunner is the best. We put them up in a nice hotel. And that's one of the things they say is, man, I can't believe you put us in a nice hotel with breakfast and lunch and all these other amenities that we have. And I tell them, well, you're important. If you're the most important thing we have, then when your first experience of Roadrunner should be the best, right? And so we start them off right, and then we try to let them leave on a high. So Paige, we have kind of a dance party every Thursday morning. So play music. We've done last week was 80s hair band. We did 70s disco the week before that. So we've got a sound system. We play music, and we shut the company down per se. Everybody jumps on a Teams call, and so whether sales, operations, offices across the country, they join, and then we give a couple updates to a safety topic, obviously, and then we introduce our new drivers. And we call them up one by one, and everyone, it is so exciting to see, number one, the looks on their faces, because we've had drivers tell me that, Frank, I've been driving for 23 years and no one has ever celebrated me like this. And it's also great for our people because they get to see a name with a face, and it's also embracing culture here. So it's been fun. That's cool. It started with a small little karaoke machine that I bought on Amazon, and now it's kind of morphed into this. But it's a lot of fun where everyone looks forward to Thursday mornings because it's play music, have fun, and celebrate the most important people in our business. Yeah, you're literally making them rock stars. That's pretty awesome. That's really cool. It's fun. It sure is. If you follow us on LinkedIn, there's always our marketing team does a great job of putting videos out there and so forth.
Well, I'm definitely going to check that out. I want to see Frank dancing in the background too. So that's pretty awesome.
Paige, you got to make it up here on Thursday. Come up on Thursday. You and I can do it together, and we'll introduce these drivers. I'd love to.
I'm in. We'll do a big, big announcement. That's cool. No, I'd love to join you guys. You mentioned culture, and we talked about before. It's one of the slower, more difficult things to do. And then we sort of wasn't joking about communication is simple and it's easy. I talk about it a lot. We might be on the XM radio in a couple of weeks and talk about that too. But communication is so critical, and it is easy, but it is not simple to execute. It takes focus, takes time, and importantly, it doesn't require a whole lot of money either. Doesn't take a lot of money. Your karaoke machine was $100 on Amazon. What that does, and communicating and listening and truly listening is key. It doesn't cost the business much of anything other than its reputation if you don't do it.
That's right. Well, and it starts at the top, Paige. We've got, our executive chairman, Chris Jamroz, every Thursday, he's got the donuts to give to him. And I'm on, we're talking to the drivers, and really it has to start at the top. So if the drivers, the number one important part to us, that's going to be to everybody else as well. And we highlight the successes we have. When I have drivers call me and say, we've got so-and-so in dispatch does a fantastic job. We celebrate them, give them some Roadrunner swag. And you know what? We have examples where we fail a driver, and we talk about that as well in this kind of town hall, because you got to learn from your mistakes and also celebrate your successes overall. So we're not perfect, but we're trying to kind of create a culture where people really want to come to Roadrunner, and it's been exciting to see the improvements we've made.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's exciting to hear you guys working on that. And it's not surprising to coming from you. Again, your background in sales and marketing and communication, as a good communicator yourself, being on our show and doing other things around the industry is time well spent for you, for sure. Not all drivers are created equal, right? And both from their professionalism, that's got to be there, but they've also have different backgrounds, right? And we talked about, entrepreneurs. We also have a lot of veterans and a lot of women. Well, and not enough veterans, I'll say it this way, not enough veterans and not enough women in our industry. And I know that's a focus for Roadrunner. I know it's a focus for the industry, but they're not all created equal. You guys are actually doing some stuff about it. Tell me a little bit about your initiatives around veterans and women in our industry, in particular at Roadrunner.
Yeah, thanks, Paige. So it's so veterans, as you know, is an important part of me personally, right? So obviously, thank you for your service. Paige, you're a veteran. My grandfather was a veteran. My dad was a veteran, and a lot of aunts and uncles and friends that went to instead of going to college, went to the armed forces. So it's a big piece of who I am as an individual. And so we celebrate that at Roadrunner. We really do. So we support veterans in trucking. We've done a couple of things as well where we've wrapped a couple of trucks for veterans that, have really cool truck wraps. One of them is at the Mid-America Truck Show. We have 2 trailers that are dedicated to our armed forces. Freedom 1 and Freedom 2 are the name of the trailers. And so we highlight the armed services and at the armed forces. And so that, that's obviously that's exciting. But also we've got within Roadrunner, whether it be from dock employees to executives that we have are veterans. And so we celebrate that consistently. But also, as part of this, the Thursday meetings we have, we take time to recognize the new veterans that we have. We recognize the veterans at the very end of our presentation. And you talk about, empowering entrepreneurs. What do? We try to find causes that are important to our drivers and support them. So, one of them is we have a gentleman named Robert Palm who started a foundation called Truckers Final Mile. He's a U.S. Army veteran. And he created this.
Let me interrupt you, because you just gave me goosebumps, and you didn't know this, Frank, but we had a driver pass away earlier this week, and with one of our partners based in Evansville, Indiana. And the true story, I literally just got this email this morning. I don't think Georgia knows this, but so got an email from him. He was down in Toccoa, Georgia, here where my office is, and he lives up in Evansville, Indiana. And Lisa, his wife, was trying to figure out, how to get him home. And Ken, the business partner we have up there, reached out to Truckers Final Mile. So they are They are literally paying for his procedures and services. He had a heart attack, we believe, while he was sleeping in his truck as he pulled over. Luckily, didn't hurt anybody else, and didn't crash the truck. But so Truckers Final Mile is paying to take him home, back to Lisa, his wife, and paying for his services. So again, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I mean, that just gave me goosebumps, because that's literally something that I just got an email from our business partner this morning, that they're really taking care of them. So it's a true story about that service. So tell Robert, thank you for doing for the team on logistics, those folks here. So
I'll call him today. It's great. He actually came by the office a few weeks ago. He's got a truck that's wrapped, and it's really special. A lot to the armed forces, because he's a veteran, obviously. Yeah. We've been a supporter of his business for a while, but I think it's close to 400 people that he's brought home. Drivers that have passed, and on his truck, the wrap that he has is super cool, where he's got the names, kind of a brick mode, with the names of the people that he's brought home. So that's awesome. I think that's really what we try to do, is support those causes that are important to our drivers. And so, veterans is a big one for us. And then also women in trucking, right? So I talk about the last people we recognize on the 30 meetings, or the Thursday meetings, are our veterans. The first people are our females, and our women in trucking. Mm-hmm. And I like to say it's not just a man's game anymore. Because these are grandmothers, they're mothers, their spouses, husband and wife, that are teams. 2 weeks ago, we had a mother and a son that were a team as well. And so
that's cool.
So it is. And it's, look, we've still got a lot of work to do. So we ask them questions. We've had these roundtables to ask our females, what can we do to better support you? What are things that we need to be better as an organization? But we celebrate the women in trucking that we have, but we're actively looking for ways to better support them overall, and organizations to support them in. But it's really interesting for us to see that the diversity that we have that's starting to come into Roadrunner, and because better than anybody, Paige, but it's so much of this is word of mouth. Mm-hmm. And so much as that, it's internal recruiting as far as references. And so, and when people come here and they recognize that, and Roadrunner really does care about the women that we have, and the veterans, and all the drivers, right? Then sure. That starts to spread quite a bit, and people want to partner with us.
Yeah, I mean, the studies show, just from a business perspective alone, that women are better drivers. They're safer drivers. They take better care of the equipment. That's not Paige's study. That was an ATA study that was done quite a while ago. And what are we doing to embrace them? I think a key part of that is listening. When they're out on the road, like you said, it's not a man's game anymore, but a lot of the facilities and service areas where our women drivers, professional women drivers, need to stop or sleep or shower are not set up for that. So we need to listen. And I think, that culture of listening and what you're doing to celebrate them will go a long ways for sure. So. Yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt you on that.
Built a new facility in Chicago.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. You built a facility in Chicago for that?
I said we built a facility in Chicago, and as part of that, we obviously have a men's shower and a ladies' shower as well. And so that's what we're looking at retrofitting our facilities to make sure we have all the amenities for women, just like we do men, mm-hmm. As well as asking what can we do better. But I'll tell you mentioned that women drivers are safer, and they're fantastic business owners. And mm-hmm. when I talk to our drivers on Wednesday and Thursday, they ask the most pointed questions. Right? They hold me accountable, where they're like, "Hey, you've told me this," and they're the ones that call me and reach out and so forth. So they make us better to step up our game. We really got to walk the talk, Page, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's awesome. I'm glad to hear. None of this is surprising. I'm glad to hear your focus on that. And again, I didn't mean to interrupt you with that Truckers Final Mile story, but that caught me off guard for sure. But that's awesome. Please, thanks, Robert, for that.
Well, I'm glad that it's been that you were able to use Trucker. It's a fantastic organization.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it sounds like it. I'm not that well versed in it. Thankfully, we haven't we've only had, since my tenure here, we've sadly had 2 drivers pass away. And this was the second one. It doesn't get any easier having to make those phone calls for sure. But thankful that there are services out there to support our men and women that are driving. So that, we could, Frank, I could do this all day, man. You could too. But so let's switch gears a little bit more. Let's talk a little bit about the future. The next generation. You've got a lot of exciting stuff going on. Maybe look into your crystal ball as far as what you would tell, business partners out there, like your owner operators, what does the next chapter look like for Roadrunner? And then maybe switch gears, and what would you tell the next generation, those young folks that are, that are in high school taking that intro course, what they should be excited about, that next generation of truckers that are coming up?
Yeah, so I think I'm super excited about where the transportation business is today and where it's going. And we talked a lot about how transportation and logistics is really taking a front seat, really. And as people are now talking more about transportation supply chain, probably the first time ever that, this, you go to a party and somebody says, "Hey, what are you doing?" You say, "I'm in the trucking business." They finally say, "Tell me more."
Wow, that's great.
They were like, "Oh, okay." Yeah.
That's true.
To somebody else.
Yeah.
That's right. So it's that part's exciting. But I think when you think about, especially for the next generation that's coming in, it's what's really interesting to me is that obviously we know supply chain affects everything, and trucking touches every piece of the commerce we move. But data analytics and business intelligence tools are starting to become such a big piece of our business, where that we need to understand not only how business operates, what business do we want to target to balance our network, but really analytics around service, quality, driver success, and the importance of visibility throughout a network, right? That's the one thing as well the last couple of years has really made everyone step up their game is around visibility, especially with more e-commerce business where people want to track and trace their shipments real time. So I look at the supply chain industry as being a great place for these kids that are coming out of school today, that they're super smart, and we need business intelligence tools because data is key. How can we be more efficient as a fleet, provide better service? And so that's the piece that I think is interesting to me, of whether it's business analytics and intelligence all the way down to a frontline driver, the importance that has to keeping our commerce moving, and I think is exciting.
Absolutely. They are super smart, smarter than I ever was or will be. But they're coming out of school. I mean, they're embedded with technology. I mean, I've got a 17 and a 21-year-old, and email is difficult for them because they're so real time with Snapchat and TikTok, and using those not just for funny videos of dogs and cats, but you're using it as they grow older, using it as business and communication tools. So they've got that technology sort of embedded into them. And then when they go to work for a company like Roadrunner, that technology's got to be there. I know many companies aren't doing this anymore. You hand them paper logs, they're like, what is this? Where's my iPad so I can be more productive, so I can make more money? And those kind of things have to be there if we're going to embrace those young folks of the future, like you just said.
Absolutely. We've got in all of our facilities, we've got TVs that really show real-time data, how the service center is doing. And in our office in Downhurst Grove, we have a TV that shows driver settlements, who's positive settlements, how many miles per week, because it's all data, right? And for us, is how do we take that data, because it allows us to coach and work with the owner operators to show how their business could be more successful if they had better miles per gallon, right? It's not just about running more miles, it's about how to run more efficient of a company and a fleet that they have, where their downtime is. And then you think about the network side and the business side, is we're always looking, how do we reduce out of route miles? How do we reduce circuity in our network? Because the more efficient we are as an organization, we can be more competitive from a price standpoint to customers. And then as we invest in service, we get more business, and it's just a virtuous cycle all apart. So business intelligence is really is at the core of everything we do. And that's what's so exciting, is that I talk to kids that are in college all the time, and we've got a couple interns right now, and they want to go into all these great things, and they look at trucking. Now they come in, they see it's not just trucks moving up and down the road. That's a small piece of what behind the scenes of how we support the drivers and support our customers. And they come in and go, "This is incredible." They just love it. So I think it's a really exciting time for our business, for sure.
Yeah, it is. It is seeing the smiles on those faces, people understanding what they're going through, what happens in trucking more than just driving that truck up and down the road is huge. So just similar question. If you go back to the beginning of your own personal freight journey, any advice in that small town and that intro to transportation course you took, and convince your mom you weren't going to be a bus driver, although again, nothing wrong with bus drivers, But what advice would you give yourself that might help you today if you could go back in time?
I've been very fortunate. I've had a lot of great mentors and people that took me under their wing and supported me. And I think that probably the biggest thing is looking back is I wish that I would have seeked out mentors earlier on in my career and asked for help, right? Because when I'm running a facility and doing well and moving around, sometimes it takes some time for someone where you have to ask for help because I've got blind spots. I do. And so I've got luckily people in the business today that point out those blind spots where I need to spend my time. Because that's really that's the one key that I've learned probably over the last few years is that you can't be everything, but there's a few things that I can do that I can do, and I need to spend all my time doing those things. But there's always areas of opportunity to improve, and so I would say that that's probably one of the biggest things is seek out mentors, ask for help if you need it. You don't have to have all the answers. Yeah. Right? It's one of those things but ask other people and be open to other ideas and suggestions, because sometimes the way that I used to look at things, I might have been looking through blinders and they were not as right. And so I'm fortunate to have a lot of people that important to me in my life that can tell me about it, other areas, part of the business that I need to look at that I haven't in the past. And so again, it goes back to being open and honest, transparent communication with people. But all of you, myself, everyone, we're continuing to develop consistently, and we never reach where we want to be. Right? That's the key is listen to the other folks around you that can help you.
No, that would be great advice that I think we all would have liked to give to ourselves back in the day, as they say. Well, Frank, we got to run. I know you got some drivers to celebrate and things to do there at Roadrunner, so we'll say goodbye. How can listeners and folks either connect with you if they want to work for a Roadrunner, or just connect with you on social media and the interwebs, as they say?
Yeah, thanks, Paige. So obviously I'm on LinkedIn, Frank Hurst on LinkedIn. Roadrunner is also on LinkedIn. Right. You'll get a chance to see, we have an awesome marketing department that they post videos every Thursday of what's going on, and it's taken kind of a life of its own. So follow us on LinkedIn, and then our website is roadrunnerltl.com. But reach out to me. It's frank.hurst@rts.com. It's pretty simple. So we're always looking to add talent to our team, always looking for additional drivers, and we've got capacity for customers today. So Paige, really appreciate you having us on, and best of luck to you, and look forward to catching up. Next time you're in Chicago, I want you here on a Thursday so we can talk to these drivers.
You count on it, man. I need to start traveling around a little more now that we can do that again. Well, Frank, look, man, I appreciate you joining us today. This was an incredible conversation. Hopefully everybody listening, some of the links and things that Frank mentioned, maybe we'll even put some links to those dancing videos in the body of in the description here of this video, both the audio and video side. So thanks again, Frank. This has been great. We'll have you on again soon. On behalf of the Freight Insider Podcast, thank you. And remember to enjoy your own personal freight journey.